Hey everyone, I need your attention for 1 minute. This is not one of those ads. This is something that has changed my entire life. If you've been listening to this podcast, you know that this is all about personal development as the foundation for everything good in your life. And this podcast is now sponsored by Growth Day, which is the world's first all-in-one personal development app. I mean, oh my gosh, can you imagine having everything all in one place that you need to create the life that you want? Now you can. So if you've been struggling with your motivation, your mood, your productivity, or your purpose, you have to check this out. Growth Day helps you consciously change your life and achieve your potential. It has all the self-improvement tools, motivational classes, and life coaching all in one place. So many of us want to improve our lives, but the question is how? Where do we start? What do we use? How do you get unstuck? How do you make self-improvement stick? Well, research shows how. It's when you consistently journal, track your habits, set goals, learn from empowering mentors, and challenge yourself that you'll be happier, healthier, and more successful. But let me ask you something. Where do you actually do all of your personal development work? I have to tell you that over 300,000 people use Growth Day for a reason. It works. It's the world's #1 software for self-improvement. Growth Day has an amazing mindset journal that I absolutely love, a habit tracker, and a goal-setting system. In fact, I bet if you went to my stories this week, you probably saw me using the journaling app and telling you to do it too, because it's the first time that journaling has ever actually stuck consistently in my life because of this app. And best of all, Growth Day has live inspirational classes every single week from the world's top motivational speakers and life coaches. These are people who have impacted my life in huge ways. These are mentors who I already knew and loved. In fact, this is something that's so huge for me, you guys. I personally teach a class in Growth Day every single month, and it is one of the most fun things that I get to do, and I'd love to see you there. These classes will truly shift your life. There's always something new that you will learn. So join me and 300,000 achievers growing our lives with actual real intention. Visit growthday.com/Lori for a free trial. Yes, you can try this for free. So go to growthday.com/Lori and go live your best life. You guys, that's growthday.com/Lori. And I can't wait to see you there. I don't care who you are, nobody can stick to a crazy, complex plan of a ton of new things that you think are going to change your life.
Nope.
Every single year, if you can just make like 2 to 4 new habits, I promise you, you will win the year.
And we're back
With another episode of He Said, She Said.
Happy New Year, babe.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody listening. This is the first podcast episode that we're actually recording in the new calendar year, isn't it?
It feels fresh.
How do you feel? How do you feel going in this year, for real?
I feel for the first time, not overly frantic, not overly chaotic, not overly like I need some massive shifting crazy plans. It feels really good. I think it's taken me this long to really understand how I work, what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, what I need. And I feel like I finally am setting up a life that really supports my weaknesses and helps expand my strengths.
Yeah. I feel like this is the best foundation, or maybe the best starting place I've ever started a new year in. And by the way, I'd love to share with people, like, it's not because I did anything radical or skipped celebrating New Year's or anything like that. I think it's the culmination of a lot of small things that we did in the second half of 2023 that made us feel really set up and really foundationally strong in 2024 here.
Yeah, I would also like to add that I think it is also coming off of 2020, 2021 and everything that happened that made us get more and more clear.
Yeah.
Like I think also getting older is a really huge part of getting more clear, that you and I are just really committed to only doing things that light us up and only hanging out with people who expand us. And that takes a lot of time to figure out.
Yeah, I wish there was a way to accelerate other than make people aware of it, right? Like, I'm 46 at the time of this recording. When I was 29 or 30, I'm not sure somebody could have said something that would have landed on me to make me choose better people, if that makes sense. I would have been aware of choosing better people, but I don't know what would have made me like really be staunch about, you know what, if you don't serve me, you're out of my life. If you don't add to it, you're out of my life. Because we've got like those huge muscles built now when it comes to those kind of boundaries. So is that like rite of passage? Is that something that you need over the years to develop? Or is there something that somebody can say to you to accelerate that? Or is it a combination of both?
I don't think that you get that opportunity early on, because I do think you have to collect people to even understand who's for you and who's not for you. And I think in the beginning of the journey, in your business journey, in your 20s and 30s, I think you're figuring it all out.
Yeah.
So as we've gotten older and we have it figured out, we have these very clear guidelines in our heads and through conversation of, who we want to be around now.
Yeah. So I think it's a combination of this. Somebody might say something to you that's good advice. And now that becomes awareness. So that awareness might accelerate your journey towards that clarity or towards building that muscle that you want to build. But it's still a lot of trial and error, even though you have the awareness.
I just think we have years of trial and error under our belt to do it now.
We do. And that's one of the reasons that we have the beginning of each new year really dialed in, right? Like remember the spreadsheet I did with our goals, our finances, everything. That was dialed in. The exercise that we just did recently that we're going to talk about today, that's really dialed in. And that's what we wanted to share with you guys is there's some tools you can do to really narrow down and dial in how you want to feel and what actions it's going to take for you to feel that way throughout this next year.
Yeah, so I came up with something that's pretty simple. And the reason that it's simple is because I have done so many complex things through the years that actually end up making me feel bad, because at the end of the day, I don't care who you are, nobody can stick to a crazy complex plan of a ton of new things that you think are going to change your life.
Nope.
Every single year, if you can just make like 2 to 4 new habits, I promise you will win the year. And it'll get better and better and better until one year you have a year like Chris and I just had where we go, oh my God, we don't feel like there's that much that needs to change. And we're getting really happy. Like we're getting happier and happier and happier because we're figuring out what that means. So let's talk about this exercise.
Yeah. We kind of like in a fun way nicknamed it the 4 feelings, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't mind, I'm going to tell them what the 4 steps of the exercise is, and then we'll go and break it down. That way they can have a framework as to where we're steering this thing.
Let's do it.
All right. So the 4 feelings, as we jokingly nicknamed it, it kind of works like this. Lori first, because she ran me through the exercise after she did it. She said, okay, I want you to write down all the ways that you want to feel in 2024. And she didn't tell me a number or anything. So I wrote down like 9 of them, right? I wanted to feel extra fit. I wanted to feel high energy. I wanted to feel happy. I wanted to feel compassionate. I wanted to feel abundant, right? There was 8 or 9 things that came out. Then step 2 was you said, okay, you got to narrow them down to the most important 4. And that's kind of where the 4 feelings come from. It's okay to have the other ones, but you're actually going to realize when you look at your list, some of them are redundant or in the same field. So for example, feeling like you have boundaries and feeling like you have space, that's redundant. That's the same thing.
Explain why that's the same thing though.
Well, because it takes boundaries to have space, right? So no matter how many you come up with, you have to choose the 4 most important feelings for you to really zone in on over the next year. And again, you're going to freak out. You're like, but number 5 is important and number 6 is important. Trust us. Feeling 5, feeling 6, feeling 7, feeling 8, they're going to come as a natural byproduct when you master the first 4 feelings that you want to feel throughout 2024.
I'll give one more example so you guys know what I'm talking about. So I had written down 9 to start as well. And I had written down for one, like intentional, focused, healthy. And I realized that intentional actually covered focused and healthy for me. And here was why. Certain words are going to cover certain things for you that wouldn't cover it for me. But when I wrote down intentional, I wrote down that I would be more intentional about our eating every night. So we're going to use our air fryer for 5 nights a week so that we're not constantly ordering out. And that fixed what I wanted to fix with health.
Yes.
So the main thing for me, it's not necessarily my workouts, even though we do want to get even more clear on planning like yoga into our workouts, which I also had down here under intentional. I realized that if I'm just intentional with what I want to be doing that will make me feel focused and healthy.
Yep.
So intentional is the feeling that I always want to be feeling.
Absolutely. Great example. So before we get too in depth in that, I want to finish giving the framework.
Okay.
So step 1 was write down all the feelings that you want to feel for the year. Step 2, make sure you identify the most important 4. You can only choose up to 4. Then step 3 is cool. You take each one of those 4 feelings, pull it out separately. Like let's say one of them was excitement. Then you write down all of the very specific actions you would have to do this year, or changes you would have to make this year, or habits you would have to adopt this year in order to achieve excitement or whatever your feeling is. And each one of them might have 3, 4, 5, 6 actions that you have to do under each of the 4 feelings. Okay, so step 3 is you write down the actions or the new habits or the changes you got to make to achieve that feeling this year. Then step 4 becomes this. You're going to have, 4 times 5 or 6 actions on each one. There's like 25 to 30 different things you got to do. You're not going to implement them all. So once again, you have to go choose the 4 to 5 actions or changes or habits that will be the most crucial ones that will also help to kind of cross-pollinate the 4 feelings that you really want to achieve. So step 1, write down all the feelings you want. Step 2, identify the 4 most important ones. Step 3, write down the actions below each one of those 4 most important feelings. And then step 4, you got to summarize all of those into 4 to 5 actions that you promise to adopt. And guess what? The end result then is that you are going to be able to feel these feelings you want to feel because you zeroed in on what's most important. So now let's unpack this in more depth.
I want to share the reason that I thought of this and came up with it as well was because if you want to be feeling those feelings and you take those actions, you have to remember on the days that you're about to say, I don't want to go to the gym, or it doesn't really matter, I'll just order DoorDash again. No, because you want to feel a certain way. And those simple tasks are so attached to your mood, who you think you are, how you see your day, what your identity is. And I think having the feelings, like constantly remembering that it's not just about the workout or about the fit bod, because sometimes you're like, who cares, whatever, I've lived with this forever. It's like, no, I want to feel connected.
Yep.
I want to feel like an organized person. I want to feel expanded. So for me, feelings are really strong. They really do control me more than most things because I am I'm more inspired. I'm curious what you are. I'm more inspired to run from pain than I am to seek pleasure.
Same for me.
Yeah. So if I remember like, this is going to make me feel this way and I'm going to stay out of pain, then that's a huge reminder for me.
Absolutely. Like, obviously, there's things I desire or want, but for me, that is not even a quarter of the motivator as avoiding the pain of not having something.
Exactly.
Right? So you got to really dial that in for yourself. So if we're going to break these down and go a little bit deeper, Lori, number 1 doesn't need a breaking down, right? You're just writing down your 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 feelings that you want for the year. That's easy. Step 2 was you got to choose your 4 most important ones. We kind of touched on that one a little bit. But what if someone's like, yeah, but you don't get it. There's 5 or there's 6.
Okay. So that was me.
Yep.
So Chris and I did this separately. I actually did it first to like see how it worked and how it felt and if I really loved it. And I was obsessed with it, actually. I feel like I want to do it every year. But when I did it, I could not detach from like all 9 feelings. So what I did is I actually wrote out every single feeling and I did the whole exercise on all 9.
So you put the actions below 9 different feelings when you first did it.
Yes. And what I found is that I kept on realizing that it was redundant. So I'd write another feeling and I'd write what I was supposed to do to feel that way under it. And it kept being the same thing.
Yep.
So it was like, all right. So when I wrote down intentional and when I had focus and when I had healthy, I kept writing the same tasks underneath it.
Yep.
And I had the realization that the root for me of those tasks would just be, I would have to plan and get intentional. So planning and intentionality were the same thing. So I just ended with the word intentional because that's how I wanted to feel.
Yeah, you wanted to feel intentional.
Yep.
I love that.
Hey y'all, I'm so excited to share with you that this podcast, Earn Your Happy, is now a part of the Growth Day Podcast Network. Truly, this is like one of the most exciting things that has ever happened to me. I'm telling you, I no longer feel like I'm doing this alone. And I actually get to collaborate with the people who host the podcast that I'm obsessed with, like that I have been listening to myself, who inspired me to start a podcast, who have taught me about how to go and do the thing, like the original people who got me motivated through listening to their podcasts. You guys, a bunch of us are coming together to bring more growth to the world and to support shows and brands that we believe in. And one of my friends are also on this network, and I'd love for you to go subscribe to their show. You guys, I just had Danielle Canty on of the Boss Babe podcast. She co-hosts it with her other amazing co-host and one of my friends, Natalie Ellis. You guys, you can go check out that podcast on mine. It's episode 925, and Danielle and I talk all about burnout and how that could be showing up in your life, and most importantly, how to prevent it. But I want to tell you, if you have not gone and checked out the Boss Babe podcast yet, go subscribe, because it is one of the largest online communities for ambitious women and female entrepreneurs. And I know that if you're listening to the show, chances are that's probably you. You guys, they have 3.6 million followers and 380,000 subscribers. The Boss Babe podcast is the place where they share real behind the scenes of building successful businesses, achieving peak performance, and learning how to balance it all. Most of all, you guys, truly, these women are in my life. Danielle and Natalie are people that I text on a weekly, monthly basis when I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel stuck. What should I do? I tune into their podcast, you guys, to learn. Even though they're my friends, I am still like crazy obsessed with this podcast because I learn something new every single time I listen. It makes me be a better podcaster. It makes me be a better businesswoman. It just makes me be better and more confident out in the world because they're so real and raw. And I can tell you that in the moments where I have had horrible days, down days, I've either gone and listened to this podcast or I've texted them, because these are the people who truly get it. You want to listen to the people who are walking in the same footsteps that you are. You guys, go check out the Boss Babe podcast. You're not going to be sorry. And it's just going to like make you way smarter and you're going to have way more fun. So go check it out.
Okay, so that's good clarification on how to navigate step 2 and get it down to the 4 most important ones, whether you're just, hacking the other ones right away and saying, okay, here's my 4, or if you actually have to, it's okay if you do it Lori's way, and write the actions underneath all 8 or 9 feelings you have, and then realize, okay, this is really redundant. Then step 3, though, this one is where it might get a little murky for people, because as you're writing those actions underneath each of these feelings you want to feel, they could have 4, 5, 6 things that they need to start doing times 4 to 5 feelings. That's 20, 30 things, and no one's going to implement that.
Okay, this is great. Don't overreach. If you are not a person who has been known to create new habits, do New Year's resolutions, or do well at, putting new things into your schedule, pick the easiest thing that you can feel success on immediately. So even if that is, you pick a simple workout because you want to get healthier, maybe you just start with a 20-minute walk 3 times a week. And you also notice that you have on your list, like, I want to start doing Orange Theory 3 or 4 times a week. No, do not start there. Like, you want to feel success as fast as possible in your first week, and you want to try to hit it in your first week as well. So whatever those easiest things are.
I love that. And I think it's important to remember, if you look back, if you could somehow fast forward to the end of this year, and if you looked at your year and said, wow, I didn't hit all 4 feelings, but boy, did I master these 2. Can you imagine doing the actions that achieved the mastery of 2 of these ways that you want to feel for the year? Can you imagine how that would affect everything else and just how great your year would actually be by just mastering like 2 of them?
I want to add one other thing to how you pick that one that you should do right away as well, is which one could you schedule literally right now without a lot of in-depth work? And also, which one can you get some accountability around too? So if I was choosing walking, I would pick that one because it was easy to do without a lot of barrier of entry, but it's also something that I could text a friend and ask them to join me a couple times a week so that I could get that accountability as well.
Oh, I love that. Okay. And then, so step 4 was here you've got your 20-30 actions, right? And you got to narrow it down to the ones that would, let's say, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? You got to narrow it down to the 4 to 5 actions that you know that you're going to maintain. You and I are going to do something kind of cool to make sure that we actually do these actions. And you want to kind of share what that is?
So I know that this is powerful, and I know that you and I have gotten to a place where we're pretty good. We're probably going to do
follow
quite
through.
a few of these.
Yep.
But when we say quite a few, it's still not a lot. It's probably like, we'll do 2 to 4 of these for sure. But these are so important. And I know that we could literally blow our minds this year if we read it every single morning. Because Chris and I have something called the Power 9 that we've done for over 10 years. And we talk about it all the time. You guys, it has literally changed our entire lives. And we have so much proof and evidence of that working, right down to something that just recently happened that we'll talk about on a podcast. But we're like, this is all the Power 9. So with that, we know the power of going over something every single day and seeing it and bringing it to life, breathing it to life, and discussing it.
Yep. So if you don't have somebody to do that with, that's like added accountability. But what Lori and I are going to do is we're literally printing out these 4 to 5 actions that are going to give us the feelings that we want to feel for the year. We're going to literally laminate them, and we're going to read them out loud to each other. Like I have to read my actions and feelings. She has to read her actions and feelings while we're having our cup of coffee first thing in the morning together. Now that might sound nerdy as hell. Like, come on, 2 months in, you're really going to be reading these things.
Yes.
3 months in, you're really going to be reading. Yeah. Like Lori said, every single morning for years, we've done our Power 9. Remember what that is? That's 3 things we're grateful for, 3 things we're excited about for the day, and 3 things we want to manifest that day. Well, that's become such a habit. And the redundancy of doing that out loud to each other has locked these things into a freaky level. Like that's for another episode, but to a freaky level of how things manifest and come true. So yeah, we really are going to read these lame-ass little laminate cards every single freaking morning as we're starting to have our coffee to each other. Why? 1, for accountability. 2, to remind ourselves that day of what actions we're going to take and what feelings we want to feel.
And to remember our roots from the 80s.
What's that?
The lamination.
Oh my God, the laminated cards, laminated library card, laminated driver's license, laminated everything. I love it. So that's our exercise that we did that's probably going to move the needle the most for us this year. I love the results that it gave me because the 4 to 5 actions are like so doable. But most importantly, I love the accountability, the way that we're going to make sure that these things happen.
It's also discipline is freedom. These are simple disciplines when you actually look at them that aren't huge things every single day for us that will completely change our lives. I mean, for example, a couple of them are just you and I want to feel like we're ahead on our social media planning. That's not hard.
Nope.
When we actually break it down, you guys, it's about 2 to 3 hours a month to feel
like we're not always playing from behind.
Of less stress. Because every single morning we can feel stressed out. Every single evening you can feel stressed out if you don't have certain things out. So I really want you to look at it as yes, it is an investment in time. It is starting things that work well, starting systems, starting new plans. It takes time. But I actually just got to spend some time with Jenna Kutcher, who is literally the queen of getting ahead and having systems. And the way that she was talking about how much freedom she feels all the time and the time freedom because she's so systemized, I was like, I am the only one standing in the way of being able to feel exactly how she feels. And I think it was that realization of, are you willing to just be disciplined and take a few hours when it's uncomfortable to follow through, to have freedom all month long in certain areas?
And that applies to all the actions that you come up with, right? Maybe it's booking out your workout classes once a month. Maybe it's running and doing your meal planning once a week on Sundays. Maybe it is planning your content for your business or your social media or whatever. The point that Lori's making is you have to do the same amount of work, whether you're agonizing over it daily once you make these to-do lists, or whether you do it in chunks and always feel ahead of the game. So your likelihood of following through with these things is going to be much higher if you're getting ahead of the game and doing it in chunks.
Yeah, For me, it was about understanding that I am done. Want to know what I'm done with in 2024? Choosing to sit in resistance because I'm not being disciplined.
I love it. Well, we'd love to hear what your guys' 4 feelings are and what actions you're going to do. And when we say that, we don't just like kind of mean it. Like DM us. Tell us what your 4 feelings are. I freaking love when you guys reach out.
I want to see your laminated card.
I want to see, yes. I dare some of you to do a laminated card and send it to us. We should do like some kind of little prize for that. We'll think of something. All right, guys. Also, we'd be remiss not to tell you that there's like 4 or 5 spots left at our very first dinner series, Networking Day and Dinner in Scottsdale on February 1st. Literally 4 to 5 seats left at the table. It's the best thing we've ever freaking designed. Like this will be our new flagship program going forward for years, more so than anything else. So if you want to get in on one of those founders spots, they're priced still at early bird. Go over to chrisharder.me/dinner series and grab one of those last 4 or 5 spots, or go to loriharder.com/dinner. Same thing, chrisharder.me/dinner or loriharder.com/dinner.
We're so grateful for you guys, and we will talk to you next week.
Hey, I know if you're listening to this podcast that you have big dreams and big goals. And one of the things that can really stop you is struggling with your marketing. Trust me, I have been there. Are you using 10 different systems just to build your online business? Then I want you to try Kajabi. Kajabi helps you build your web pages, set up funnels, and sell your courses, content, coaching, or communities. You've been hearing me talk a lot about funnels on this podcast and the importance of your email list. You can get a free trial at kajabi.com. That's Kajabi.com. I've talked about Kajabi before, but here's something that's super cool and new. They just rolled out an AI assistant for creating your online course curriculum. And this means you just type in a topic that you want to create on a course or webinar, and bam, it just generates a sample outline for you. It takes a ton of the hard work away. Of course, you're going to customize it to be your own, but this really helps you get over the struggle of how in the world to start, which is where most people stop. If you're like me, starting is always the hardest part, and that's what makes Kajabi so popular. They've made it easier for creators to build web pages, build courses, build coaching programs, build membership sites, build checkout pages, and build email funnels. So if you're struggling with any of those, you got to go check it out. Go to kajabi.com. Kajabi was really the first all-in-one system and is trusted by over 100,000 creators. I think that's good enough for me. Also has influencers and marketers who use this. And now their smart AI platform makes it easy to take what you know and turn it into an online course and business. Go start building with a free trial at kajabi.com. That's Kajabi.com.
Want to know a huge secret to my success? Okay, not only my success, but just about every single person that I have interviewed on this podcast who is successful has this in common. You guys, they love to journal. They capture their life lessons and what they're grateful for. But a lot of people don't keep this up consistently. And most people do know that the research shows that journaling deepens your gratitude and increases self-awareness. But did you also know that journaling decreases stress and helps you achieve your goals faster? In fact, journaling is a huge differentiator between average performers at work and high-performing people. It leads to longer-term clarity, confidence, and success. So why don't more people journal? Why didn't I journal consistently? Honestly, they don't like staring at a blank page. It's hard to carry a book around with you or a notepad, and they just don't even know what to write about, or they just forget. That's why I know that you're going to love Growth Day. It's the world's #1 system for self-improvement, and it's like all-in-one personal development in an app. And it has an awesome digital journal, and people love it. Growth Day's digital journal has hundreds of research-backed writing prompts for self-reflection, positive mindset, confidence building, and success. I use them all the time, and it makes me think in ways that I typically don't, and it makes me ask myself better questions, which we all know gets better results in our our life. It even has prompts that help you develop a daily, weekly, or monthly habit of reflecting on your life and identifying areas to grow. So it's a perfect time of year to start journaling, you guys. When you sign up at Growth Day, you also get systems for habit tracking, goal setting, and scoring, and improving every area of your life. Best of all, I get to teach there too, you guys. I'm so excited. I hope that I get to see you. I teach live in Growth Day every single month with a new topic just for you. So join me there. Start your free trial at growthday.com/Lori.